From the point of view of MTA revenue and ridership, this is worse, far worse than the Great Depression of the 30s. And that is why we need $12 billion from the federal government. On subways, New York City subways, New York City transit subways, at the height of the pandemic, ridership, which is typically about 5.5 million people a day, was down 95%. On a typical day now, it's down between 72 and 75%, depending on the day. In the height of the ridership decline in the Depression in 1933, ridership on the subways declined 12%. So from a ridership decline and a revenue decline, this is way worse than the Great Depression. That results in deficits this year about $8 billion. Next year, McKinsey estimates between 6 and 7. And that's why we need $12 billion in revenue to get through 2020, the remainder, and 2021. This is a national crisis and requires a national solution. There is no other level of government in the United States that has the ability to fund states and cities and agencies like the MTA. I would argue, Axel, that it is in the national interest to fund the MTA because the New York City region accounts for such a significant portion of national GDP. And not only does investment in the MTA benefit New York City, the New York City business community, New York State, and the tri-state region, but it also benefits the national interest. It's in the national government's interest to fund this.
When do you have to start making cuts, given you're hemorrhaging, as I said, $200 million a week?
Well, if we don't receive the funding, as we discussed at our special board meeting last week, we're going to have to make significant service reductions and significant layoffs. That will mean a up to 40% decrease in subway and bus service in Staten Island Rail, up to a 50% decrease on the commuter rails, Metro North, which serves Westchester and Connecticut, and Long Island Railroad, which services Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk. Lay off approximately 8,400 of our colleagues. Greater than anticipated, greater than planned fare and toll increases, and reductions in service across the system.